last show, 2024, boys. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Andrew Adams, Double A, Jen Rolnick, JR.
Yeah.
Just waiting to double check this all with Sam. Sam, is this all correct?
I don't know.
Wherever you are watching, listening, Sportsnet 590, The Fan, Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus. Just the three of us. Security guard came by just before we came in, threw me the keys and said, lock up when you're done. I think we're the only ones in the building.
I think you're right.
There was a broom being pushed by a couple. I haven't seen a whole lot. You know, there's a few dust bunnies flying through here.
I gotta say, if you're listening today, thank you very much. You are in the Spotify Wrapped. You are in the 0.1% of our listeners.
Where's everybody else?
Doing stuff. It's the holidays.
Eggnog,
No one's working.
eggnog.
I bet you if you're in your car right now and you're driving around and you heard the Kyper and Bourne theme song, you're like, they're working today?
So we'll be off tomorrow.
Yes.
A busy day in the National Hockey League tomorrow night.
Leafs at 1.
We've got 1 o'clock. Sportsnet Ontario will be back on the desk.
Kyper and I are on it.
David Amber, Elliot Friedman. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
But there's plenty to talk about. I mean, it's not
There
like
is.
we're coming in here and twiddling our thumbs for the next 2 hours.
No, there's legitimate content to be, made here. But
Yeah. So feel free to go, boys. I'll just sit back and relax and
What do you want to talk about?
How was everyone's holiday?
enjoy my eggnog under the desk.
How was everyone's holiday?
It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
A lot of nice time spent with family. Then I came back to Toronto. It just went really fast.
Yeah. You get a fresh Leaf jersey?
No, nothing.
No.
I don't really get gifts anymore, which I'm totally fine with.
Yeah,
I got
middle-aged man. That happens.
here and there. Got a gift. My brother-in-law got me an awesome President's Cup Peter Millar golf shirt.
Sick.
So that's really nice. Got a sweet Tragically Hip table book
Nice.
for my mother-in-law. And that's pretty much it.
Lovely.
Yeah.
You, Kyper?
I got boots.
You
I saw the
boots.
boots. Yeah, I
They're
saw the
nice.
boots.
They're nice boots. I'm at an age now where I'm like, those are great boots. I want those boots.
Oh,
That's a
and
good boot.
I'm at the age, I got a blender from my sister-in-law, and I was thrilled.
Yeah.
Like, if I had got a blender in my mid-20s, would have thrown it in the trash. Now I'm like, oh my God, yes.
This is going to change my life.
A cocktail blender.
No, I don't eat breakfast. So I have a lot of shakes in the morning.
Little
So,
smoothie action.
Yeah, big smoothie guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So where do we start with the Toronto Maple Leafs? Because, like I said, there's some news and notes going around that hockey club, including Auston Matthews back on the ice. But overall, the Toronto Maple Leafs played their league-leading 9th back-to-back game.
What was that board you did on the show the other day? How many did they have this year? 17? 16? The most in the NHL.
Yeah, I think Carolina as well at 16.
Meanwhile,
And,
some teams at 8, 9, 10.
Winnipeg. But you can't say that because they're out west and they travel like 10 times more than most other teams. So I guess we're not allowed to mention that.
Okay, but
with a
other
straight
teams were
face.
still at 10, 11, 12, and not
Yeah.
16 back-to-backs.
Would you like me to read some of the Toronto Maple Leafs? I was texted this today.
Yes,
so
please.
I would read something to you. 9 back-to-back so far, mostly NHL, like you mentioned. They've played more than the Winnipeg has all year and will play all year. Faced a rested home team 4 times and an arrested team 7 of 9 back-to-backs. 500 record, 4-4-1 in the second half of back-to-backs. 661 percentage in non-back-to-backs, 18-9-1. Back-to-back the last 5 weekends.
Yeah, and again this weekend. And just to
Including this
add
one.
to Sam's point, Sportlogic did some data up for me. The Leafs, from now on, because of what he's talking about, have the 6th easiest remaining schedule. So they hopefully will have some opportunities to make up some of the abuse they took in the first half of the year.
And what is it? Amazon and Four Nations face-off related? Why they've played this insane schedule? Like, why have they played such an insane schedule? Is it Four Nations?
Well, it's Four Nations and Amazon. I told you guys.
They want those Monday nights. So
They
all
want,
of a sudden that changes.
not only do they want the Leafs the most, which they got on Monday
they paid
nights,
for it.
but they made it clear they don't want to compete against the Leafs playing that night.
Right.
So Mondays are basically off limits to alleviate any type of scheduling.
So they
issues.
either get them or it's a day of the week the Leafs can't play.
Can
which
you
changes
imagine
some of
that?
the options.
Like, so Monday night, which is tonight?
Yeah.
I'm lost.
It is tonight.
Is it tonight?
It is tonight.
So it's
It is
Winnipeg
tonight.
and
Yeah.
Nashville.
Yeah.
And listen, Winnipeg's
First place team.
first place team. big names, star names, like they deserve the platform.
Yeah.
But
But
Amazon's sitting there going, hey, first place or last place doesn't matter.
The market's not big enough.
We don't want the Leafs playing against Winnipeg. So
or
cram it somewhere else, which they did.
So that it does jam up the schedule a bit. Is what it is. You know, you play the cards you're dealt.
You mentioned it. The fifth easiest, meaning that they'll play next weekend as well. They'll be Boston's in town next Saturday or this Saturday. And then Sunday, they fly off immediately to play Philadelphia. After that, do we know the next back-to-back? It's going to
just one in January.
It's going to alleviate a little bit here.
Alleviates a bit, and like this week, for example, you get the Islanders twice and Flyers once. Like even the Bruins aren't.
Yeah, so there are no more back-to-backs in January.
Okay.
So that's good.
But it is literally every day or every other day. Like they have a crazy just like every other day, which if you're doing a radio show, hypothetically, that might be great.
So
news.
Washington, for an example, while the Leafs were in Detroit battling it out, and we also did that hockey game, they got to practice in Washington that afternoon, jump on a plane, be in Toronto before dinner, have a nice dinner, sit back, watch the Leafs go against
Scout
Detroit.
there,
Watch
where
them.
they're at.
Watch them all limp to the bench.
Like
Which was
every
like
player in that game got hurt.
Yeah.
Like their whole decor.
half a dozen, easy. And then Lawrence went down, and I'm like, that didn't look good. He played Saturday night, of course.
Got his helmet stuck in the glass in warm up on Saturday
How
night.
does that happen?
I've never seen that before.
They literally Domi cut it with scissors to get it out of there.
That's crazy.
So they're watching all of that, and they're like,
all right, let's go.
I'm not. We're going to pick apart Saturday night.
Yeah.
But it has to be a big part of just.
Didn't help.
Thank you.
Didn't help.
Those are the words I'm looking for.
And you know what, Kip? I thought they played pretty well given all of what you're talking about. I thought, in fact, and maybe this is the first place we go, if Anthony Stolarz is in net and not Matt Murray, that might be like any other game where they hang around, the score's a lot closer, maybe they come out on top. I thought they were hurt by bad goaltending.
That's the first game I can sit there and say that, to your point, if they get Stolarz from 3 weeks ago, a month ago, they find a way to win that hockey game.
Like the Mangiapane shot is dead in the middle of a pad, and he kind of slides out of the way of it. And then the Chychrun one is, it's a good shot, but Stolarz is 6'6", and he's there.
And Murray was there too, and he just whiffed on Chychrun's goal.
So if you're this much quicker and this much bigger, I mean, you're catching a piece.
Yeah, I don't know where you guys are at on the Hildeby versus Matt Murray in the quite a sad backup battle here, but I've seen a couple Matt Murray games here. I think I'd like to go back to the well on seeing Hildeby again here.
Yeah,
like I think I've seen enough from the two games that he's played in here where I'm like, you know what? Maybe try Hildeby now.
To me, you keep saying, one of you take it. Yeah. You play. One of you show us it's yours.
So just on that, Matt Murray has been assigned back to the Marlies. And Hildeby has been recalled.
But
so
I'm not sure if that's the cap thing that they did before.
But
their cap, it's very comparable.
No, but like it was
$30,000 difference.
But it's not about that. It's about, remember him clearing waivers. Like if he spends a certain amount of time on the roster and he has to go back down, that he doesn't have to clear waivers at a certain point. So I don't know if it's that or they're actually going to start Hildeby in the second half of the back.
If they called him up tomorrow and put him on the bench instead of
I don't think that's happening.
What's the point, right?
So, I think based on what we saw last night, they're looking at Matt Murray going, this guy just needs to play, and he needs to play down there.
Yeah.
He's not up here. Okay, your timing's off. You've been away for a long time. Go get some reps.
Nothing will help him become a better goalie and find his old form like playing. He just needs to be in the net as much as possible.
Yeah.
So be it.
And clearly, you're shaping up for Joseph Wall against the Islanders.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
like
Tuesday,
there's no
Thursday,
excuse to go to a backup goalie tomorrow or Thursday.
No, because particularly if you do it Thursday, then you've still got a back-to-back where you're probably giving one to a backup, and now you're just giving a lot of backup games away.
That's coming. So it's better Hildeby at this point than Matt Murray against Boston or Philadelphia next weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably won't see a backup till Murray probably plays on Saturday or Hildeby, whichever. But the point is, You're going to see Woll get a playoff-like schedule here for the next couple weeks until Stolarz is back. Probably three games per week.
All right. For his thoughts on our first Kippers Clipper and first of last in 2024, let's go to Craig Berube.
All righty.
Clip 6.
No, for sure. But it's about results too, right? And it's about how they play and things like that. So we're going to look at all that. But yes, our schedule is more, easier to, get one guy running here a little bit. So that's, we'll just, listen, I'm just focused on tomorrow's game. That's it. I'm not going beyond that game. I'm going to focus on that game only, and then I'll worry about the next one.
So,
Berube has a cold, huh?
yeah. Join the rest of the world.
Yeah, no kidding.
There's no worry about, like I mentioned this before when we were talking about after Stolarz got hurt and they were pushing Woll. I know that they are in a pretty good spot here in the division, considering the Panthers just lost the Habs somehow. Anyways, I know they want to win the division, but is it worth, having subpar goaltending here to take it a little bit easy with Joe Woll as opposed to pushing him in a real starter's role?
Mm-hmm. So first thing,
because if you lose him, then you're hooped.
Yeah. The first thing I want to note out of that clip, though, is just that he said it's about results, too.
Yeah.
So this isn't just about, management or waivers or whatever. It is something to do with Murray's performance the other night. So that's one note. The other thing is, I think to your point earlier about Stolarz and let's see if he can do it, I think you're in a bit of that point with Woll, too, where I think you see if he can do it and play a lot, because it should give him confidence, that he can do it. If he gets through some of these stretches playing a lot of hockey, get to playoffs, okay, you've done it before, and if you can't, you need to know that too.
Yeah.
So I think he gathers some good information here.
Again, without the pressure of back-to-back games, you're in a better position to go to Woll a lot more in January.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that Stolarz isn't coming back anytime soon here.
No updates on that, eh?
Well, he's
Couple weeks.
not
probably.
skating.
Yeah.
Right? So
At least a couple weeks.
he's already been out 10 days, 2 weeks.
Sounds right.
So I would think he probably is still a month away from playing his first game.
Do you think so?
Well, if he starts skating
I actually think
next
you're
week,
right.
do you want to, how quickly you want to throw him back in?
Well, I don't know. You're right.
But
It's like
my point is, it's really kind of shaping up for Joseph Woll to have the majority of the starts, I believe, in January. But a lot will dictate on as early as the next 2 games on how, if he gets on a roll, you're gonna say, hey, run with it a little bit here. As long as there's no back-to-backs.
And you've seen Stolarz do it when Woll was out. You're seeing Marner do it when Matthews is out. If you want to be a big name, you got to step up when the other guy's out.
If he struggles, they lose the next 2 games and he struggles, then you got a lot more of a concerning issue on going to Hildeby or maybe calling Matt Murray back up. I don't know. But until that happens, you got to your point, hey, it's not like you've been overtaxed. You didn't start the season. You were hurt. If you get on a roll here, let's run with it a little bit.
Yeah, and he's 24 or 25, whatever he is. One thing I do want to do is kind of update where they are in the division. Right now, they're tied with Florida. Florida has played 37 games, and so have the Leafs. They both have 22 wins, 13 losses, 2 OT losses for 46 points. They're both a plus 10 goal differential. Dead tie.
It's like when you win, they win. When you lose, they lose.
They've just been mirroring each other. The one difference, well, there's 2 differences. Florida has 11 more goals for and 11 more goals against. So the Leafs are better defensively, not as good offensively so far this year. Oh, and the Leafs have 1 extra regulation win. So were they tied today, they would get the playoff spot.
If we are going to stay on the standings just for a split second, and I think there's a few teams in the East that can thank the New York Rangers for nosediving.
Last.
Right?
Dead last.
In the Metro.
Dead last. But Ottawa's taking advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they claim to win their game in hand that they have on both Florida and Toronto, they're 4 points out.
Yeah, you're not wrong. 4 points out of first in the division. The reality is, I mentioned the Leafs are tied for first in their division. They have a .622 winning percentage, which would be 4th in the Metro. It would be 4th in the Pacific and 3rd in the Central. So the top of the Atlantic is soft. The bottom's soft. It's a soft division.
Well,
I know, but there's 4 legitimately good teams between Toronto, Tampa, Florida, and Boston. Tampa is actually red hot.
Yeah. And they're a team that they've got plus 37 goal differential this year.
Best, yeah.
7-3 in their last 10.
They're sniffing right behind.
Who
the
also
Leafs.
just lost to the Habs. Really weird.
Yeah.
Both Florida teams lost to the Habs. Anyways.
Head coach Craig Berube mentioned on his clip there he doesn't want to look any further than the New York Islanders. Let's get his thoughts on facing Patrick Roy's New York Islander team.
Clip 5.
Well, we know what they are, and they've been a certain way for quite some time as a team. Their identity of how they play, and they're a patient team. They don't give you a ton. You got to earn your chances, and then it's important for us not to get impatient. And we got to stay with it, and it could be a real tight game. So we just got to stay with it. I think that at times throughout the, just going in the past, and I wasn't here, but I looked into it a little bit. It's just getting impatient at times and not committing to staying patient and take what they give you. That's it. And we got to do a good job of that. I thought last time we played them here, we just opened it up too much, and they capitalized on the chances, and I think more than anything, that's the biggest key tomorrow.
And of course, he's speaking of a very convincing 6-3 win last time they were here. Like this is, I haven't watched a ton of Islanders. You've watched way more than me, but Horvat was going, Barzal was going, Sorokin.
They're better than the record.
Like that. If that wasn't one of their better, more complete games, then I don't know what is.
How about the game you went to, Bourne?
Guys,
Complete game?
I went to the worst performance by a hockey team in the NHL this year. I was on Long Island to watch Islanders, Sabres. Buffalo had lost 13 straight on Long Island, and they beat them 7-1.
Oh, my God.
So how do you go from looking so good against the Toronto Maple Leafs to 2 days later losing to Buffalo 7-1?
I don't know.
Remarkable.
How? Tell me. Was that the same team?
They looked old and slow and disengaged. It was pathetic. I mean, unhappy fans are there, packed building for Christmas. Everyone's in great mood. Just an abomination. But the point is they have been unhealthy. They're getting healthier. They have a good goalie. Some good D-men haven't been very good this year. They can be okay. So the Islanders will be no pushover. But Berube's right. They are what they are. They're going to play in straight lines,
I find it so funny him being like, "Oh, I wasn't here, but I kind of looked at it and dug it." Like the Leafs narrative wasn't the most talked about thing for the last 8 years.
Like
I didn't come across it, but I think it's funny that because I think over the last little bit they've definitely looked a little bit more like years past than they have to start the season.
Problematic version of themselves.
Well, I mean, like the odd man rush stuff. I mean, to start the year, Kyper, how many times did you say they haven't given up an odd man rush? They haven't done this. They haven't and it's totally flipped now.
It's flipped.
The underlying numbers are bad lately.
Yeah.
And for a while, though.
Yeah, and for a while. For December.
Honest, where we may have to go back to Stolar's stealing one in New Jersey back.
Yeah. No, and so there was the thought that okay, Matthews will get healthy and he'll get back and the underlying numbers will improve and they'll start to progress in this because they were really hurt for a long time. And then they got healthy, and it hasn't been better.
All right, so let's go to Auston Matthews because that's continually a hot story.
Yeah.
He's skating. He practiced with the team today. He was included in a lot of things, but he will not play tomorrow afternoon. Does that set him up for as early as Thursday in Long Island, or do they wait on the weekend against the Boston Bruins? But let's go to Craig Berube for an update on Auston Matthews.
Tomorrow he will not play, but he did a good job in practice today, I thought, and I think he feels pretty good. So we'll just go from there. That's all I got for you on that.
All I really got for you is please
don't ask me another one. Don't ask me another question about this.
We not to do the Don Cherry thing, but we could play the tape on that. We called that during the game. We said he wouldn't play. We were doing the Sabres game, right? And we said you're not going to see him next game. It was during the game we made that call.
Laboring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even before that, we said
don't play him.
Don't play him. He doesn't look any better than he did before. And then sure enough, we're right back here. Not like they didn't notice either, but it was visible is the point. The point is it was not like this, he got a random injury. It's like he looked kind of bad for a few games leading up to stepping
Well,
back.
he never
Looked better.
looked better.
He
Like
never
even
refound it.
from his return, I mean, was it the Nashville game he came back in or the game where he had the 2 goals when they reunited him with Marner and he had the amazing goal where he did the toe drag and at that moment. But outside of that, there weren't many Matthews. When he produced, he's really good. He can score in the power play. That's what he does.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like we talked about this the last show, I guess a week ago today, right? Monday, it's Monday. Yeah. That my concern level on this, Kyper asked what it was. Gordo said, what did he say, 7? I just said 10.
Yeah.
Like I just went for it.
Just maxed the scale.
I went for it. Yeah, I turned it up, baby.
Right up there with like
Up.
a cut artery or something. Max fear.
It's not getting better.
Yeah.
And
I could start by saying, "Hey Sam, on a scale of 1 to 10,"
10.
and he just yelled 10.
10.
You wouldn't even
10.
you wouldn't even listen to the question. You just go 10.
You're off or on. He's
Yeah.
a light switch. He's not a dial.
I go to 10 and then I'll work my way back.
That's right.
no,
I'll
but,
talk myself out of 10.
but I think it's a 10 is a reasonable fear here.
No, it's not.
It's not.
10. What, Sam? 10 is like
No, but
Okay.
his level of concern is legit because it's not like it's definitive knee sprain.
no. We
Two-
should be
two-
very concerned.
2 to 4 weeks or
Yeah.
4 to 6 weeks.
We
or-
didn't see him get hit by a bus. He didn't
like,
get run
there-
over by the
there's
Zamboni.
nothing, which lends to the feeling of, and unconfirmed, that he may have some sort of back issue.
Was he got polio?
Right.
What's going on right now? This is honestly, it's so vague that it is tough to talk about. So it's like I don't. You're right.
Discomfort. The only thing they've ever reported on him in his career was the wrist, right?
Mhm.
Mhm. I don't know. I think
Discomfort. He's not feeling great, I mean, what else? What conclusion would you come up with?
He's got to have a slip disc or a hernia.
I don't think, there doesn't seem to be that sense of panic.
I
And
just don't know
if he
how you
did-
can't be at an 8 or a 9
Sure.
when
Sure.
you're a guy that is the focal point of your offense, a guy that's almost a 70 goal scorer,
Mm.
gets hurt in preseason, misses preseason games, doesn't look the same, leaves, disappears, literally flies intercontinentally to Germany to get a world-renowned doctor to look at his back, comes back, plays, looks exactly the same as he did at the start of the year, takes a shot in the lower back, and then is gone again, and now we're doing the same dance.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's not at a 10.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real.
It's a 10 if he
problem.
comes back and he looks the same way.
Well,
Well,
but it's
how's he
also-
not going to look the same way?
I don't know.
Like, are you really feeling like, another week off
No,
and he's
but
back to
but like-
2021
I
Matthews?
guess we're arguing about semantics. Like,
Like, I
a 10
feel
is
like-
like he's not going to come back. To me, it's like you're going to see him again.
To me-
he didn't die.
It's just, are you going to see that real man strength that he has?
Yeah, tough to imagine that he just finds it again. The bigger thing is that he seems tentative because of the discomfort. So what you're going to get is who's a great shooter who otherwise isn't that effective? Cole Caulfield, someone like that. You're going to get a good player back, but you're not going to get a Hart Trophy winner. And
I
so
think it's affected his quickness too.
definitely has.
Oh, yeah.
So-
It definitely
So
has.
you're not even getting Cole Caulfield.
Victor Olofsson, who you get?
So I don't know. I think he's going to play. He's going to come back at some point here.
Yeah.
But
I'm concerned too. I am concerned for no other reason that it's if it's something that's right out of training camp, we are talking now 3 months.
Yeah. And so are we talking about the golden opportunity?
yes,
The golden opportunity. Can they be the Mark Stone team, the Kucherov team, the Patrick Kane team? Can they do it?
wow, it'll be the last year for it.
But how
Because
about
if the
this?
Leafs did it, that loophole,
Oh, yeah.
bam, slam shut.
But I think
Gary's goons are kicking down
you
the door.
could even
at
play them till March. You could play them up till the Four Nations face-off and then say, we tried. It's just so you don't want them to not play for 4 months. You can play them the next few weeks. But are you trying to win a cup or are you trying to win the
Listen,
integrity
I'm not,
award?
I just don't think that they're in a position where they.
No enough.
Well,
Sorry to cut you off.
no, it's fine. We're not even at the halfway point.
Mhm.
you're really talking about shutting this guy down till like
Do
April.
you think that's that crazy to consider?
Today I do.
I don't think it's time
Today,
yet.
right now,
No, I don't
yes.
either.
Like you have to go through.
But it's on the radar.
Well, I think it's a legit conversation. If we get to that point, what do we do? And if you want to explore a conversation, if he does shut down and we take one last chance of bringing him back in April, then let's have a conversation on where we would focus our challenges to trade for somebody. I'll have that conversation,
Yeah,
and
we'll get
I
there.
think we're going to have one right now.
Impromptu,
But-
true or false. The Leafs have talked about this internally.
You'd be crazy if you didn't.
Got to chat.
So true.
You're not covering all your angles. You're not doing your job.
Correct.
You're not doing your due diligence if you haven't had that conversation. But there's got to be multiple failed
Attempts to return,
attempts to
recovery
return.
or whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Attempts to return before you go down there to now sit there and contemplate shutting him down now or the next week or two is, I think, nutso.
So there is.
Well, I agree with that.
So what is the Four Nations break? It's like the 8th to the 22nd, I think. I think they play on the 8th and I think
Yeah.
they play on the
What do
22nd.
you guys want to talk about during that time?
Oh God, Latvia. But so they don't play for those 2 weeks. From the 22nd to March 7th, I believe, is the lead up to trade deadline. You're going to have 2 week pocket in there to see him play and assess. Even if, to me, if he stays healthy over that 2 week, but he looks like he's looked, you'd say, what if we give him 6 weeks here to get to postseason? What if we just give him that rest? 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and spend his money and go get JT Miller from Vancouver, who plays center for us if we need, wing if we want, has a little feist, little playoff. Guys, I'm just throwing stuff around here.
I think they have a truly, truly generational chance here with the way that it's looked. They've never done anything like this in this generation of Leafs hockey. And the way he's looked, it's so easy to be like, we're shutting him down. You've already got the alibi of him going to Germany.
This is such a podcast conversation.
But it's true though. You literally have an alibi. He went to Germany to get this looked at. It is. It's what it is. Like when Gary comes
Covering your
knocking on the door,
tracks.
be like, buddy, he was in Germany. I don't know.
We're just throwing things around.
No, I think it's if you're not Brad Treliving, if you're not Brendan Shanahan, you're not doing your job. If you're not having alternative possibilities.
Time goes fast, really, really fast. It's January in a moment here, and it's like 100 days till playoffs.
Yeah.
Not that far away.
So the general feeling is that they're not looking at that type of move right now. So you were looking for
They want
a
him to
lesser,
play and help him win.
a lesser kind of depth centerman. Yannick Gord's name comes up a lot out of Seattle.
I love him, but I don't know if he's still effective.
Well, and the price won't be that bad compared to what you were talking about moments ago with JT Miller.
Yeah.
So does Austin now change that?
Yeah. The Gord thing's interesting specifically because of Holmberg and Kampf at 2C for them. Like Gord can at least do that and chip in some offense. But yeah, that would definitely change the math about who you're talking about
And
who you'd have to spend.
So let's say, to Sam's point, that they go out there and they get their $8 or $9 million player, in JT Miller or Kadri, right?
Yeah.
You're going to talk about next year.
What does that do moving forward here? John Tavares slide into easy. So if you had, in Sammy's perfect world next year, Austin, JT Miller, and Tavares, and does Tavares come in at $3 million? Not $7 million.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the only way you keep Tavares, right? You can't, he's either the centerman for the, Ottawa Senators or something next year.
Nashville, probably.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think he really loves Ontario and his family. But if you did something like that, it certainly hurts his chances and leverage, in which case he probably makes less money and still stays. He seems to really like it here.
I'm not sure there's a even if he stays for less money, there's a place for him because
Yeah, if you give Mitch 13 or whatever the number ends up being, and then you got to give Tavares, and now you've added Miller. You're right. You're handcuffed.
I'm not even thinking about necessarily numbers compared to like at what point do you say I got a young player in Minton that needs to find a third line role.
Sure.
So if I commit to John Tavares as a third line centerman, is Minton now my fourth line guy for the next 2 years or 3 years? Because John will want a 2 or 3 year deal. He doesn't want to sign a 1 year deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
so
probably
those
better
are
off with the young
so
guy.
many of those dynamics come into play here on whether you go plan A or plan B on what type of big name guy you want and the price tag it'll command.
You know, I love that Minton is in the American League right now, and I've said this before. I think it's so good. You know, right now he's been back for 5 games. He's got like an empty netter, and otherwise it's pointless. Maybe he has 2 points, but it's not about points for him. He's just getting some reps down there, and at times I've been like, should they call this guy back up? Like Holmberg ain't doing it, whatever. He needs some time. Minton still needs time to be an everyday NHL guy.
Okay.
I do like Yanni Gourde, though.
Yeah, he's scrappy,
Fan of him.
competitive.
Good playoff guy.
Yeah.
Like that. If they're not going to go out there and do the big enchilada, that's a guy that I really do like the idea of.
I think Leafs fans would love him.
Okay, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we got Luke Fox, Leaf NHL writer for Sportsnet.ca. We'll get into Matthews' return, the workload on Joseph Wall, and perhaps even a John Tavares contract and what that could look like.
Mm-hmm.
That and more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Sam McKee closing out 2024. Got Luke Fox. What?
I ran into a Greek guy named Nick at the O'Connor Meat Market. He says to say hello and he loves the show.
Were you driving at the time?
No, I
okay,
was-
good. All right.
I will say I spent some time in Golf Town too after the holidays.
More
shocker.
Greeks, more Greeks there.
And the place for people who listen to our show, it's like a bunch of middle-aged white dudes. It's it's the sweet spot.
I too have been recognized at Golf Town. Yes.
So thanks for being for all the listeners. It's encouraging.
It is for sure. All right. Is he out there, Luke Fox, or is he still opening up gifts?
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
There he is.
Santa good to you, Luke?
My biggest thing was Golf Town gift certificate.
There you go.
I'm not just saying that to make for a smooth segue, but it's
Uh,
actually
that
true.
should get us all a certificate from Golf Town, shouldn't it?
A
But, yeah.
sponsorship, maybe that would be nice.
My putter's like 30 years old, and I haven't ever hit it well once, so I don't know why I'm holding on to it. So
The new one though.
I
The new one.
got to go there and get a new one.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I take it you've caught up to the Leafs post-Christmas, and the feeling is that, outside of maybe some inconsistencies in their game, is the feeling of Auston Matthews coming back any different from the 9 games he took off? Is there more concern, less concern? What's the overall feeling from your end?
For my end, I'd say there's more concern just because I don't think he ever quite looked right when he came back the first time after missing 11 games and going over to Munich and getting some special treatment. It's interesting because when he went away, Brad Treliving said, we want to nip this in the bud. We're taking this prolonged break so that when he comes back 100%. And I don't know what you guys are seeing, but I don't know if there was one game where he looked totally back or totally 100%. This is a nagging thing. And he's not going to play again tomorrow in the matinee against the Islanders. So that'll be another 5 games. I understand, we're late December. The playoffs are a long ways away. It's smart to exercise caution. You don't want to rush him back. But the questions are now at least circulating in our minds. Is this guy going to participate in the Four Nations tournament? Should he? Is this going to be nagging all the way to the playoffs? Is it going to hinder him there? So, they're being cautious. He was back at practice today, but left a little bit early. They're going to ease him back in here at some point, and you just hope that whatever is ailing him is something he can manage. And at the very least, you hope he's ready to go in April.
Yeah, we chewed that around a little bit before the break, and it is a top of the list of concerns for the Leafs. So one of the encouraging things about this Leafs team, I think, is that there's so much potential when they're healthy. When they have all their guys and it's put together, you can see a really strong team here. One of the concerns also with that is Matthew Knies, who had his concussion, missed some hockey, came back, and hasn't been the same version of himself since. Wanted to get your thoughts on his play the last couple weeks, and if you see anything that's visibly changed, because he's not producing at the level he was before the injury.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's just the numbers. I don't think it's just the production. He looks a little bit more hesitant, and maybe that's because he's still feeling some pain. We don't know, or maybe you get rocked like that, and you lose a little bit of your edge. I mean, he's bounced back from this before, right? Sam Bennett gave him a concussion when he was brand new to the league in the playoff series against the Lightning. And, he managed to come back a better version of himself eventually, but he hasn't found his game. Part of that might be he's been bouncing around, different line mates, different centermen. So there might be an element of that, but he's on the top power play. He's getting plenty of opportunity. Craig Berube used an interesting word today, speaking to reporters after practice. He wanted him to be a bit more reckless. And he's like, I don't want him out there taking penalties, but I want him going to the net. I want him finishing his checks. I think that hasn't been there as fiercely as it was early in the season. And again, it's fine. It's 82 games. We saw him go through a lull last season, and he picked it up as playoffs began. I think that's okay if there's a lull in his game, but he has to pick it up, and he has to start peaking again at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to imagine, again, to bring this back without the veteran presence right now of Tavares and Pacioretty right now, because, for PTO, man, this guy is now sitting on the number one line with Tavares and Marner, and he's needed, really needed on this hockey club.
Oh, absolutely, he's needed. And it's kind of funny, right? Like there was at training camp, we were debating, like, should he be taking a spot from a young guy? Does he even deserve, is his NHL career in jeopardy? Is it over? And now you don't want them dressing a lineup without him. He's become an integral part of the top six. And I just love how physical he is. Every single night you watch this guy, Pacioretty's finishing a check on some guy where you're turning to the reporter next to you like, did you see that? Mm-hmm. Like, he's got a viciousness to him, and good on him. The thing with Pacioretty, though, after they came back from the Christmas break, no one was more effusive in how much he needed those days off than Pacioretty. And I think, A, it's age. B, he's all of a sudden playing a heavier game than he's probably ever played in his life. And you throw in the Leafs have more back-to-backs than anybody, and it's taking a toll on the guy. So they're leaning on him a lot right now. And good on him. He's responded and he's played pretty well. He's found chemistry with Tavares in particular. But you don't want to lean on him for the whole rest of the second half of the season, because I don't know if he'll have anything left when it matters.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So I want to talk a little bit about defense, because we didn't get to it in the first half. Fun stat today from Anthony Petrilli. If the Leafs D don't score tomorrow, they will have gone the entire month of December without scoring a goal. In the month of December, they got 0 points from a defenseman on the power play. So what do they do about the lack of scoring from the back end compared to other good contending teams? It's a place where they really lack punch.
Oh, absolutely. And the irony is Oliver Ekman-Larsson was signed in part because Brad Treliving and the front office realized that they wanted more production from the back end. And I think he's been solid, but he's dipped a little bit, but he hasn't really been piling up the points. Morgan Riley started off pumping a few goals in, but he's kind of gone cold offensively. So the last game against the Capitals, Riley blasted a one-timer from the point, and it took me off guard because I couldn't remember the last time he actually did that, even to keep the defense honest. They just don't shoot that much from the point, and they don't have the guys with the big bomb, but it is a problem. I think they have 7 goals total from the defensemen in their lineup right now, and you got guys out there, individual defensemen on teams with more than that. So it's a bit of an issue. That they'll say they don't care who gets the goals as long as they come from somewhere. But this is a team that, if you're missing guys in your top six, especially, you want that offense to come from somewhere. There needs to be more from the back end. How much of that is guys wanting to play Brube's safer system where they pinch less than they did under Keefe's system? But I think there's a healthy balance to find there, and they do need a bit more punch from guys like Riley and Ekman-Larsson in particular. Timmins too, like that's one of his strong suits, and he's not really producing a ton either.
Right.
We're talking to Luke Fox, Leaf and NHL writer for Sportsnet.ca. Luke, it's almost as if for me right now the offense would still be a bonus with this blue line, but they are not. And Craig Berube touched on this about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. They're not getting clean looks and breakouts anymore. Like at times, it's unlike anything we saw in the first month and a half of the season. And Saturday night was one of those rare examples where the goaltending couldn't kind of fix a mistake when it did break down. What are you seeing out of their own zone that we didn't necessarily see for a month and a half?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Nick. Like that cost them that Capitals game. It started with the first one. Dewar, just a brutal, exit pass, on the wrong side of his own blue line. Odd man rush the other way, bang, it's in your net. The other one, they had possession and they just couldn't get it clear. I don't know if it's the condensed schedule is taking a toll on them and they're getting a little bit of tired brain or something, but they've lost their details. And Berube's been harping on that. He's been harping on good sticks. He's been harping on clean exits, getting through the neutral zone, harder forecheck. And it seems to me at both ends of the ice, they're not exiting as quickly as they were early in the season when they had fresh legs and had some jump. Maybe they were more inspired to impress the new coach and try to earn more ice time. And on the other end, I think their forecheck has gotten a little bit, I don't want to say lazier, but it's certainly not as effective. Going back to the Knies conversation, that's an area where he needs to work at. And maybe it's just how overwhelming and demanding this style of play is. They're kind of trying to have a more Florida Panther-like style of play. And I remember going into the Panthers room during their run, and some of the guys, like Sam Reinhart, said, it's an exhausting style of hockey to play for 82 games. We know we need to do it because that's going to give us playoff success, but it's hard to do it every night. A lot of the games that the Leafs have lost is because they've lost some of those details. They've lost some of the pace to their game, John Tavares was pointing out. So it's a tough one. And maybe in the back of their minds, they feel like they can turn this on later when it matters more. Right now, they're still amongst the leaders in the Atlantic. There isn't a sense of urgency.
Yeah, it does feel like this is like one of the first years. They're one of those teams that you're like, God, when they grind and they hit, they're going to be really tough to beat, but you just can't do it every single night. We can't do it well. So, maybe that's one of the reasons why I feel better about not seeing them with a 700 winning percentage, that they're kind of doing, skimming along at 622. So with the way they're constructed right now, Kampf is subbed in for Holmberg on that second line. And the reason they're doing that is because they love the third line right now. Robertson kind of coming around. Bobby McMahon has been awesome. Domi's coming. So this is some encouraging signs, I think, for the Leafs that those three players seem to have found it a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Domi had a really rough first month and a half, 2 months of the season. Like, injury aside, you could just tell they had lost confidence. Even in games where he doesn't get a point, he has jump again. He looks noticeable. He looks like he's flying out there and feeling good. And him and McMahon have really found something. I think Robertson a bit less so, but he's getting on the scoreboard as well. But McMahon, for me, has been a wonderful story. And remember, guys, this was a healthy scratch in the season opener in Montreal. I remember sitting up in the Bell Center and looking across. There's Bobby McMahon in a suit, like not a little bit sour for sure. He signed a nice new contract extension, biggest one of his life, and he can't get in the opening night lineup. But now, this guy is a force, and his speed. The Leafs don't have a lot of fast guys. Bobby McMahon's speed works really well with Domi's vision. So I understand Berube not breaking up. I'm sure Nylander's like, I need Domi. I can't play with Kampf or Holmberg. But, you do have a good thing with that third line. I'm fine with them keeping it together as long as they're running hot.
One more for me, Luke, and we'll let you go. And that is the goaltending. A month ago, we were like talking about the Leaf goaltending being as good as we've seen like in 20 years, 25 years. Everything was humming. Sammy looked every day like he gave birth. Okay? Now it's
I don't know.
proud.
What?
Just
Oh,
proud.
proud. Okay.
Like you just gave birth, Sam. Like you're a very proud mama. Okay? Now it's come down to earth a little bit. Stolarz is out. Murray didn't have a very good game and got sent down, probably to get more games in the American Hockey League. And now you got Joseph Woll. It's not a back-to-back scenario. I'm sure the Leafs are hoping that he plays both games. But how critical are these next two games for Joseph Woll and where the goaltending goes from here on in? Fork in the road a little bit for maybe the Leaf goaltending this week?
Yeah, and Joseph Woll should see this as an opportunity because Anthony Stolarz isn't coming back for a few more weeks still. Like, he's got to grab this thing. When Matt Murray goes in the net, I think the Leafs got to score 4 minimum. Like, I don't have faith in him, and I'm sure they see it too, right? Like, after the game, Brube's like, I'm sure he'd like a couple back. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't give up 2 bad ones that you want back every night. So this is Joseph Woll's chance, right? The team has invested in him. He's got this window of opportunity to really take the net and run with it. The question has always been about, can he handle a heavy workload? He hasn't done it yet. January is the perfect month. You know, if he plays well, then they don't have to rush Stolarz back before the 4 Nations. Just, you don't have a ton of back-to-backs. I think there's only 1 in January. Just Joseph Woll, take it and run with it. The Leafs used to have the best team save percentage in the East. They've fallen in that regard since Stolarz went down. And some of that, most of that is probably Murray, but some of it is on Woll. He's been okay. He hasn't been stellar. He has another level to get to. He's got, the Islanders who aren't, offensive juggernaut by any means. This is a good first step for him to get on the right track.
Luke, really appreciate it. Go back to playing with your gifts, I think, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I got another Christmas dinner at my mother-in-law's.
Oh,
Just keep it
There you
coming.
go.
All right. Keep it going.
Okay.
Appreciate
see you,
your
Luke.
time
Thanks,
as
man.
always, man. Thanks for doing this. Luke Fox,
Okay.
Sportsnet.ca.
Take care.
All right, proud mama.
What?
Where are you with the goaltending right now?
It sucks. I mean, I love watching Stolarz.
Doesn't take long, eh?
Well, Stolarz
He was happy a month ago.
I remember that.
Stolarz was so good. Like, he was just so good and so fun to watch and such a great, exciting style and just good.
Yeah.
He was good.
Star. Like a star. He was a total star goalie, and he's disappeared. And I think you're seeing a bit of the workload weigh on Woll. I don't think he's been bad by any stretch, but he definitely hasn't been excellent, kind of like Luke said. And then Matt Murray, I haven't enjoyed it through 2.
I haven't enjoyed it.
I don't think a lot of Leaf
It's so
fans
funny,
have.
the margins are so thin. But when you've been down and out and you're working your way back, a couple of bad goals, that's enough for the next guy to get a chance.
Yeah, like I think those 2 games that I've seen from Murray, like I said earlier in our Leafs hour, I think it's time to try Hildeby again in the next
Team save
back-to-back.
percentage, the Leafs 7th in the NHL right now. So still pretty good.
That is a kind of a mind-blowing stat that the Leafs haven't got a goal
It's
from
insane.
one defenseman all month.
I know. I mean, I know I've seen some of the stuff that you're working on for the broadcast tomorrow, but some of that, Riley, you've got some question marks about?
I do believe that the first guy that knows that stat is Morgan Riley.
Yeah.
And
He wants to
there's
contribute.
such a fine line between coming to the rink and doing what the coach asks you to do and play safe and don't take any chances. But like they need to generate offense, and that is Morgan's job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you look at the other
First
guys in
and
the
foremost.
decor. He is the guy that
He's-
is supposed to do it.
He's gotta find something here to kind of get it going.
Yeah. There can be a little bit of an offensive guy in every pair, the OEL or Timmins or Riley. It's almost like you need different rules for those guys where you say, you can leave the blue line, go in, circle in the offensive zone.
Well, they got one of those. His name's Willie Nylander.
yeah,
Different rules.
He only left twice.
But his
But that's
power,
a conversation for another day,
his
by the
power
way.
play different rules are crazy.
Crazy.
He hasn't scored a goal on that second power play unit, and they're just like, stay. We don't know. We're out of
Just let
ideas.
him do it.
Yeah.
Anything he wants. All right. We're just getting warmed up here on our last show of the year. We go national next on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. All right, one more show, and the year's over.
Holy hell.
So we're on today, off tomorrow, off Wednesday, back on Thursday, Friday.
Yes, you have the schedule dialed.
There you go.
But during a similar time slot, we will be doing the Leafs game tomorrow. So there's content.
Yes.
There's just not
Busy.
national NHL content.
Busy next few days before the Winter Classic, which goes.
Are you pumped?
Well,
sounds like it.
I don't mean to slander it at all. So I won't.
No, listen.
Wrigley.
I've been a part of them enough
They're
on the
cool.
broadcast. When you're there, they're really cool.
Really cool.
They're awesome.
Right?
Outdoor hockey's awesome. I'm jealous of Sam seeing his
They're back
tweets
at Wrigley
about outdoor
Field.
hockey.
It's been done before, so there isn't that element is gone. So I think I'll tune in for sure. But I mean, the luster's gone off of it in terms of feeling like you're seeing a real like spectacle.
Yeah.
But it's great for the locals, and it's great for what's been a money-making, like 20 years now, 20 plus years.
Yeah. Is that how long ago the first one was? Yeah.
And I will say the Blackhawks uniforms are spectacular.
I like St. Louis's too. I think it's
Yeah,
going to look
like,
like a great
I mean,
matchup.
that's a stupid Dumbo brain, but a lot of it has to do with the
It's
jerseys.
going to be beautiful. It's
It's
going to
gonna
look
look- yeah.
great. And listen, you got Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
The Blues are trying
Who's
to get
heating up, by the
competitive.
way? Shooting it in the net a little bit more now,
There
Bedard.
you go. St. Louis is 20th in the NHL. They're chasing down a playoff spot.
And he'll be a big focal point New Year's Day. All right, wherever you're watching, listening, Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. We're glad you're aboard for the next hour. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Frank Seravalli, hockey insider, president of hockey content for Daily Faceoffs, will join us. Is he there? Is he?
I believe he's there.
Oh, he is there.
Oh, there he is.
All right.
Wonderful.
Unlike Luke, I think Frank's done opening gifts.
Is that right? Okay.
Frank, welcome aboard, bud. Thanks for doing this. How are you?
Yeah, Happy New Year, guys. Good to be with you again.
Yeah. Santa good for you? Like, do you shut down the news? Even if you got the biggest scoop of the year, would you go, nah, I'm on break here. It's Christmas.
I mean, I guess it would depend. I think we all have a price. Everything can be bought. But I will say that the league going dark December 24th, 25th, 26th. I know you see the NFL now and the 2 games that they added on Netflix. I think it's one of the things the NHL really gets right. Let everyone hang with their families, get some time away from the rink, close the facilities, and we're looking at you, Dallas Stars. No optional extra practices here. Everyone, kind of has to live by the same rules. And if it's going to be, you're playing games on the 27th, then that means that no extra practice for everyone, not just you guys.
Okay, this is not anything new, Frank, for Dallas or any other team to kind of understand. They're not the first team that has done this and gotten fined, I think, $100,000 in the past. So where was the screw up? Where did they think like they were going to be able to pull this off? Explain it to us.
Well, the first rule in committing a crime is don't tell on yourself. Like when Pete DeBoer talks openly about the team's optional skate and then saying that the young guys were there, even though it's optional because they had to be there, probably not the best course of action if you're looking to evade punishment. Maybe that's just it. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they're happy to pay the fine if it
Price
means
of doing
gaining
business.
a competitive advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Was
Yeah.
it $100,000? Is that number out?
The number is not out, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was larger than that, because how many times are we going to see teams year after year do the same thing and get fined and then have it just $100,000? I mean, every owner is writing a check for $100,000 for a chance to win, even if it's a slight percentage chance to win an extra game.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's crazy. Do you think they'll ever play on Christmas Day? Do you think we'll chase down the NBA and NFL?
I don't know why you'd want to even compete. No offense. You're not the ratings behemoth that they are.
Yeah.
Maybe in Canada it might be different, but even so, at some point you're encroaching on World Junior territory. There's just a lot happening, and I like the traditional aspect of the NHL going dark on those days.
All right, so the
I'm a little tempted by it.
you like the idea?
Yeah, I maybe even one game.
Yeah.
Like Christmas morning.
How much would you like it if
Yeah. Go up
Christmas
against
morning.
screaming kids opening up gifts. Like 11 a.m. 11 a.m.
Look, the rules for Christmas morning are you can put on Christmas Vacation and you can cook breakfast in your Blackhawks Griswold jersey, and that's about all you can do on Christmas morning connected to the NHL.
Yeah.
I'm telling
and
you.
the Grinch is the ref. All right, hold on. So the NHL trade freeze has ended. Who do you see as being active first out there?
My eyes have been on the Vancouver Canucks for 2 weeks now. I think as the trade freeze was being enacted, they were making calls right up until the very end. Now look at the injuries that have piled up for them. This team was in a world of hurt, moving the puck out of their own end when Philip Hronek was the only guy out of their lineup on the back end. Now take Quinn Hughes out, even for any measurable length of time, not just with the season that he's having creeping into the Hart Trophy conversation, but also looking at the rest of this defense core as it's currently assembled. I mean, you head over to Daily Faceoff and you look at their pairings. It is pretty ugly for the Vancouver Canucks. You're looking at 4 replacement level NHL players and 2 regulars. And that's tough sledding for a team that's really been as inconsistent as they've been. There's been a lot happening so far this year in Vancouver. We can talk about Pettersson and Miller, and we can talk about Thatcher Demko and the time that he's missed. But I don't know that we've properly assessed the Canucks yet or have the ability to do so yet. With all of the injuries that they had, they put together a roster in the summer that they haven't had together for one single game as a complete team this season so far.
Before we get into JT Miller, just in terms of the injuries, we get a sense that Pettersson's not as serious as Quinn Hughes. Do we know anything about what happened to both of them?
I don't. They've done a pretty good job of keeping it shrouded. And look, I think with Hughes, the really interesting part is Rick Tocchet mentioned that he had no ability to make it worse. So when he guts it out and plays a game and he's clearly injured, what does that mean for the rest of the timetable? Is it just when he starts to feel a little bit better or is in less pain? What exactly is the threshold to manage here if the injury can't be made worse or can't be hurt worse? That's certainly something to keep an eye on.
You good on Vancouver, Kip? If I move on?
Just one more. And just in terms of your thoughts on this, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Disagreement feud between Pettersson and JT Miller, and whether or not it'll cost one of them traded because everybody's feeling like names are out there. Do you see any scenario where they move one of them, and the sense is it would be JT Miller before Pettersson? I'd love your thoughts on this.
Look, could I see a scenario that world exists? Yeah, I think I could. I think it's probably a single-digit percentage point. Look, at the end of the day, these two guys have played together since 2019. They both signed 8-year contracts, knowing that the other one was there. We didn't hear a peep about this last season, even though this has been ongoing for years. Two guys that, look, on any given team, in any work environment you've ever been in, not every single person gets along with everyone else. And that's okay. That's a fact of life. I do think it's something that they probably need to more consciously manage this year. And do we get to a point where one of these guys raises their hand and says, I've had enough, I can't do it anymore? Maybe. But I can only tell you that the biggest loser in that situation will almost certainly be the Vancouver Canucks, because it's going to be difficult to find equal value for those players in return. If you want to change it up, sure. Doesn't mean the Canucks are going to be better off for it in the short term or the long term. And I think they've got every incentive in the world to try and work this out.
All right, Frank, I was on Long Island and went to the game where Buffalo beat them 7-1. Fans were chanting "Lou must go" at one point. There's some unrest on Long Island. What are they going to do? Are they just going to plow ahead with this same group to a 20th finish in the league?
I do think they're going to have to make decisions, Justin, as we get closer to March 7th. They've got a couple pieces on their current roster that I think are certainly going to be of interest to teams at the deadline, pending UFAs. And short of that, I think we need a cohesive long-term plan. We need a succession plan. We need some thoughts. What's the process here? And I think the fans on Long Island deserve to hear what that plan is, because I don't know that it's been properly enunciated to anyone. I know that that's Lou Lamoriello's style to not do that. But then you see someone like Patrick Waugh take the mic at practice and tell the fans, hey, we haven't been nearly good enough. We need to be better for you guys. Those types of messages go a long way, but it feels like, reading between the lines, and you don't have to be a super sleuth to do that, that Patrick Waugh is banging his head against the cinder block wall here. What does that mean for his future on Long Island? What's the path forward for this Islander team? Because, not being close to the playoffs and also not being in the lottery zone is no man's land in the NHL. And they've been firmly entrenched in that position for what feels like a couple years now.
You're watching and listening to Frank Seravalli, Hockey Insider, president of hockey content for Daily Faceoff. So lots of talk about the Rangers quitting on Peter Laviolette. Larry Brooks, who writes for the New York Post, has mentioned it. Just in terms of your sources, what are you hearing on Laviolette? Is he safe? Is his job in jeopardy? Where do the Rangers go from here?
Oh, I think the job status for Peter Laviolette is teetering on the edge right now. That part is clear. We know how the New York Rangers operate. They don't tolerate mediocrity, and they certainly don't tolerate this team flailing like they have for the last 6 weeks. It's one thing for any team that has a tough 2-week stretch in an 82-game season. That happens. But when it starts to stretch into a second month now, and, at some point it could be a third here, they're 4-12 since Chris Drury sent out that memo to the rest of the league. And I get that players were upset, but I also think, in talking to people in and around the New York Rangers organization, that there's a feeling from their management staff that they don't want to let the players off the hook here and make a coaching change, because this team, I think Larry Brooks, as to your point, mentioned and reported it perfectly, that they have quit. They've quit on themselves. They've quit on the coach. They've quit on the manager. They've quit on the organization. And to paraphrase, quit on the city. This team is so much more talented than the way that they've played. I don't have an explanation for why it's unfolded the way that it has. How did Mika Zibanejad seemingly forget how to play hockey this season? Don't understand it. But I think you could ask that question about a number of different players on the Rangers roster at this point. And they're another team that seems to be in desperate need of a direction. Which way are they heading here? Is Chris Drury going to try and make a move or two here with all the cap space that he has and cash that's been accruing? Or is this a situation now that they floundered to the bottom of the Eastern Conference that you have to take a step back and say, well, we could trade our way out of it or try and make a coaching change right now and save this season? Or should we wait and see what else we learn about this group, and at the same time deal with a more full deck when we get to the offseason, as opposed to trying to wedge something in now with teams that may not be viable trade partners or who may not have interest in taking on some of the guys that we want to move on from?
They're a fascinating team to watch. Obviously a big market. We're also here in Toronto in a big market. And so there's a lot of attention when everything is slightly imperfect. The Leafs kind of struggling down the middle, but they're not sure about Matthews. I don't know if you have anything on Matthews or what's going on there. If so, yeah, okay, probably not. No one seems to. But how urgently do you think they would do something, make a trade, try to add someone down the middle? Even with Matthews, it feels like it's something they're going to do eventually.
It does certainly feel like that's something that's on Brad Treliving's wish list, or right at the very top of it. And I know that he's always making calls and is active trying to understand the market. I don't get a sense that there's a ton of urgency at this exact moment in time, mostly because the Leafs haven't really needed there to be. They've played well enough and kept their head above water. And even when they hit a bit of a rough patch, they find a way to dig themselves out of it. And that part, I think, has been a really comforting factor of this Leafs season, that they are a good team. They've played like a good team for the vast stretch of it. And when there's a clunker or two, they find a way to respond. So that's certainly, as we get closer to, and it's very shortly in 2025 going to be trade deadline season. We're not there yet, but this is a team that will certainly look to improve at that position, then also addressing the third line as well, and potentially both at the same time, that no doubt that's going to be at the forefront. And then with Matthews, I just think the larger question is this something that can be addressed in a different way? And if not, what is the proper protocol and course of action? Because this whole idea of sit out for a few weeks, come back and play a game, re-injure it, and then have that continue on isn't a recipe for success for Matthews, for the Leafs, for anyone for the rest of this year. What is the best play, and can it be fixed in a more meaningful way? And I don't know what exactly that entails or means, but I think it's the type of question that you have to be asking right now.
Got to ask you about Winnipeg and Calgary in terms of the expectations going into the trade deadline. We know Winnipeg's in a different place than Calgary, but lo and behold, Calgary's, man, right there in the thick of things as well. So what are you hearing on those fronts?
Well, the Flames are just patient. They've been a scrappy team. They've been, to me, one of the most fun teams to watch in the league because I think they really understand what they have and what their identity is, and they don't really try to do too much. They're hardly ever playing over their heads, which I think has been a really important facet of this season. And they also seem really comfortable no matter the situation, down, up, whatever it is. They've got enough vets there that they've pulled that group together. The culture is night and day different, I think, from this year to last. And I think they're a team that's going to remain right in it up until the very end. As far as what that means for the trade deadline, it probably means that there's not going to be a fire sale, which is disappointing to a lot of teams, I'm sure. Will they have to consider a call or two if it comes in, asking for a Rasmus Anderson or whatever that market looks like? Yeah, Craig Conroy is going to have to consider everything that comes across his plate for the Calgary Flames, but I don't think they're in a posture or a position where they'd want to do something. And I think the bigger part when it comes to Winnipeg is asking the question of Kevin Cheveldayoff, who took a couple big swings last year, although the prices weren't exorbitantly high, still certainly paid a pretty decent penny to bring in the guys that he did, that made immediate changes that really didn't impact that team in the playoffs. So, look, I think Winnipeg, for the start that they had and then the almost expected downturn and come back to earth, I still like the Jets. Actually, if you're looking at some odds, and Bourne, I know you're all over this, like Jets as a President's Trophy winner, I mean, points wise, goal differential wise, I don't know why that wouldn't be a team that you'd be thinking about in terms of ability to make a run for that as the top team in the West or in the entire NHL in the regular season. I think they're pretty uniquely positioned for that with Connor Hellebuck. And I just wonder, I don't know exactly what Kevin Cheveldayoff's thinking, but when you do go out last year and make the additions that you did and then don't find success in the playoffs, do you turn around the next year and say, maybe less is more? Maybe we have a good team and don't need to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, Cheveldayoff has done pretty well for himself when he does make moves. Like, I've generally liked him and it's helped the team. But yeah, the first round last year was concerning. So good for them that they'll be in a spot to take another crack at it. I think around Canada, like most of the teams are kind of where we thought they would be. Montreal, not awesome. Oilers, pretty good. The Ottawa Senators were, I think, the team that people were most divided on what they would be. And they've kind of found it a little bit here. Steve Stais, first-time GM. What are your thoughts on where Ottawa is, how ambitious they'll be? Like, they're in a spot right now, and I'm sure if you're Michael Andlauer, you'd sure love to see some playoff gates.
Yeah, it's not just playoff gate. You'd like to see the buzz from this season roll into something that gives people good feelings and sustainable boost heading into the summer and next season. So I do expect the Sens to be aggressive. I think they've been one of those teams that's been pretty active to this point in the season, sort of under the radar in terms of making calls. And it's been a series of really good moves, from the coaching change with Travis Green to then the trade for an extension for Linus Ullmark, even though he's been out. His numbers in the month of December were flat out unbelievable. And then just another move that was widely panned, even including myself, was the asset management with Jacob Chychrun. I know previous regime and what was given up to get him, but not that many people were excited about Nick Jensen. And you see the impact that Jensen's had on their back end, not just in terms of settling things down in their own zone, but also helping Thomas Chabot on that pair. Shabbat's played some of the best hockey of his career this season. So I think you stack a few of those wins together and then you maybe add something else as you get closer to that deadline. They're open to considering lots of different things. And I think the Sens are going to be a team to watch as we get closer to March 7th.
So you mentioned Jacob Chychrun, who's a pending UFA. We've got
And
a lot.
double-digit goal scorer already this season.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
More than
he's
the Leafs all year.
playing fantastic. But my question to you is, like, number one, have you seen such a rich list of UFA, pending UFA, and Marner here in Toronto, Rantanen, Brock Besser, Nick Ehlers, you mentioned Jacob Chychrun, and I'm just wondering, Sam Bennett in Florida. So it was roughly, if I'm not mistaken, Frank, about this time last year, the Leafs announced a $92 million contract for Willie Nylander. Like, I haven't heard anything on anyone here. It is so eerily quiet when it comes to teams with these type of talented players at the peak of their careers. And there's not a lot of smoke around any one of them, quite frankly. And I'm really surprised. I've been around a long time here, and there's no sense of urgency on any of these teams outside of maybe Shea Theodore, who's Vegas signed at the end of October. Mm-hmm. My question to you is why?
The answer is simple. No one knows where the cap is going quite yet. Is it going to be $92.5 million? Is it going to be 95 or 97? It all comes down to, when you're signing these deals, is having a really clear understanding of percentage of cap and what that looks like. Now, each negotiation is different unto itself. And, I can just, give you a peek inside the Rantanen situation in Colorado, which has been pretty ugly. I think those two sides, I don't want to say they're at odds. It's pretty clear. I think that Mikko Rantanen wants to return to Colorado, but the Avs have drawn a really clear line in the sand saying we've got an internal cap. This number slightly south of where Nathan McKinnon is as far as we're willing to go. And, Rantanen's sitting there going, well, Leon Draisaitl, he just got to $14 million for next season. We have the same agent. I know what that market looks like. Why can't I get closer to $14 million, even if it means exceeding the deal that Nathan McKinnon signed? I don't think the Oilers turned around to Leon Draisaitl and said, hey, you need to get in line south of where McDavid's deal is currently. Internal caps are great, but they're also ways in which you can go about losing a player. So it all depends on how this, goes about unfolding. Could we see a world in which the Avalanche say, hey, if we can't, get a deal done, we're going to have to trade you? I have a hard time believing that Chris McFarland or Joe Sakic is going to walk into that Avalanche locker room this season and tell Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, hey, we just traded Mikko Rantanen. I personally can't see it, but the Avalanche, they're going to need to manage the asset. What happens if Rantanen's walking? Are you going to give it one last playoff run and then just say, hey, we'll see whatever we can do at the end to get him signed? Or are they going to bend on what this internal cap has been? It has not been pretty to this point in time. And so it's a couple things. It's percentage of cap, but also when you talk about the free agent class, the reason I don't get too excited and or worked up is, out of all the players that you just mentioned, my guess is something like 60 to 75% of them will end up re-signing with their current team and not end up making it to market, because the very best players hardly ever do. And some of the ones that you mentioned are in that category.
Do you think if the Avs lost some games here, that would force the hand? Like, if they thought that maybe they were going to miss playoffs, they would trade them? Like, I'm just trying to imagine, because in the NBA you see 7 first-rounders traded for, it's like Rantanen to me would be the first guy where it'd be like, yeah, they got 4 firsts or something wild.
Well, I don't know that firsts are going to help that team. They're not trying to blow a few years of, Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar in their absolute primes. So I think you'd have to look around the league to teams that would, A, be open and willing to pay Mikko Rantanen, and B, have current assets from their crop that they'd be willing to trade to Colorado to improve their team in the here and now. And
tough to imagine, isn't it?
You've eliminated 20 teams.
I can give you one. I can give you one that I know has been calling, and that's the Carolina Hurricanes. Like, they're a team that's ultra aggressive. Could you imagine linking up Aho with Mikko Rantanen. I mean, it'd be pretty special. And what could you send back the other way? I don't know.
Yeah, and
A guy who's having an all-world season
And
and
you-
Marty Necas?
you envision that owner paying close to $14 million for Rantanen? Really?
Look, yes, I do. And here's why. What have we said about the Carolina Hurricanes for the last number of years? They're missing a true game breaker.
Yeah.
When you could bring in a guy who has 100 points in 82 career playoff games, that's a game breaker. That's a special player. Again, not saying any of this is going to happen, just saying there has, since word got out that things weren't going well with the Avs and Rantanen, there's been teams calling left and right to Colorado to try and understand the situation and get on the list if they do decide to part ways.
But that
at
would
some
go
point this year.
against every fiber in Tom Dundon's body.
Well, he's going to have
You
to
realize
pay
that, right?
to stay competitive and keep people coming to games.
I disagree with you. I think he's willing to pay if there's a clear case. He just doesn't pay for anyone. That's all.
I think we're good.
All right. Hey, be great. I'd love to see it. Because he's a game breaker. Half the guys we mentioned are true game breakers, and they're true stars. And
And I just like
As soon as we
what's
have
the new
a
number?
percentage of cap, as soon as we know what the cap number
Frank,
firmly is going to
what-
be next
what-
season, is when you'll start to see some
to the
extensions.
point where you piss off some of these unreplaceable players, like the cap's at 100 million, whether it gets there in the next 2 years or not, it's well over 100 now. They just can't, they got to negotiate that number. But we know that the revenue has it over at $100 million. Why is Edmonton going, yeah, 14 million? Yeah, let's get it done. I'm not replacing Leon Draisaitl. Why aren't the rest of the teams figuring out you're not replacing Rantanen? In the Leafs case, you're not replacing Marner. So what is the waiting for the cap number?
How do you then find $5.5 million for Mackenzie Blackwood on a 5-year deal?
Great question.
I'm sorry, like I'm getting my first and most important pieces done first, and then figuring out, hey, maybe we could, spin the goaltending, carousel in the summer and try and find a few pieces that could get our team through. They've already won a Stanley Cup with a, somewhat mediocre goalie in Darcy Kemper. He's sub 900 save percentage on the way to a Stanley Cup in 2022. You would think that they'd be one of those teams at the front of the line to try and do it on a value basis instead of 4 games into the experience with Mackenzie Blackwood, who, by the way, has played as many Stanley Cup playoff games as me and Bourne. Someone needs to explain that contract to me.
Right.
Hey, Frank, excellent stuff, man, for our show. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Happy
you
New
guys.
Year,
Have a good one.
Frank.
Happy New Year.
Yeah,
You
happy New Year to you too, Frank Seravalli.
As a reminder, we get to start saying Happy New Year. That's nice.
Oh, love it.
How long into the year?
I don't know. I think like
5 days?
the third.
Great stuff by Frank.
Awesome.
And
Rantanen's
And
crazy.
for all the time, too.
And
That was a long interview.
I really, really don't get, like, okay, first of all, we are talking about some of the best players on the planet right now in the game of hockey.
Right.
So it's really strange that these guys have to nickel and dime another $500,000 or $1 million out of their teams.
Mhm.
And teams are actually debating on to let someone go or not over $1 million when top baseball players of the world and top
my God.
NFL players of the world are signing for hundreds of millions, and we're splitting hairs on the best hockey players in the world.
So-
Yeah.
I
It's
will
crazy.
I will say that I think it's more complicated with Marner in terms of the relationship with the team and the playoff stuff and all that. And all I'm saying I'm not saying it's right. With Rantanen, I mean, he's had 100 points in 2 straight seasons. He's won the cup. He's won like that one to me. Like there's scars with Marner, and like say I want them to pay him. You know what I'm saying here. But with Rantanen, it's like you're gonna tell Nathan McKinnon that you're gonna just like let him walk over. Like is Nathan
Also with
McKinnon
this-
really gonna be that pissed that if he makes $500K more than him to keep him on the team?
Yeah, you would think McKinnon's a competitive
Like it's crazy.
fella. He'd be like, yeah, just don't lose him, you fools. Like.
I don't know. Like, there's no way they've sat McKinnon down and they're like, we have this internal cap with you, sir, and we will not pay him a dime more than him. We're going to lose him because of it. He's like, no, just pay him.
Yeah.
I loved
I'm rich.
I loved the way the Edmonton Oilers
yes.
didn't mess around.
Just get it done.
Okay. You cannot lose Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you have to go back and get rid of pick 10
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
and say, sorry, got to get rid of you. You're done.
Yeah.
Because I got to get that guy signed.
No.
So it's not that you don't have room for him. You make room for him.
Yeah.
Of course.
There are guys in this league. There's 700 and some guys in the league. There's like 75 that make a difference, and you can't let them go. They're impossible to get. From when you draft them to when they're good is 5 seasons. Like when you get them, you got to keep them.
That Mackenzie Blackwood
By
contract
5 years, who are they bidding against?
that blew my mind when I saw that.
He wouldn't sign for 4.
Maybe see like 15 games.
I don't know.
Were you
What's
surprised
the
by
hurry?
that? Yeah.
What is the hurry?
Yeah.
Like,
Couldn't
make
believe
him
it.
hungry.
Yeah.
Make him earn that thing. Don't give it to him now.
Game time?
Game time.
All right. It's game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. It's 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Now, when you guys were talking to Frank, he mentioned the President's Trophy race.
Yeah.
And
Interesting on the Winnipeg stuff.
the Winnipeg stuff, and I'm just looking at the standings here. The Winnipeg Jets are a plus 500 number to win the President's Trophy. They are the second favorite to the Vegas Golden Knights, who are the favorites to win it. So they're on to what Frank is talking about.
Yeah.
I think they're not letting you get a ton of value out of that one. You look at the points percentage in the league. I'm looking at the Eastern Conference points percentage in the league. Vegas is ahead. So they've kind of just gone down the list here. But the Washington Capitals, to me, are plus 900. They are third in the league in points percentage. They're 3 points back of the league lead when it comes to the President's Trophy. If you're looking for value, I guess that's where you have to look. Like the Panthers are down the list a little. The Devils are plus 850.
Yeah, I just don't love the value.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of hard to win it here when you got all these teams that have already all these points, and they have done a pretty good job of laying it out here. But I guess there's decent value with the Winnipeg Jets at plus 500.
All right.
You could do worse than that.
I'm into it.
I'm looking at the games for tonight. Only 3 games on the ice tonight. The putrid New York Rangers. Hate saying that for Kippy, but they're in Florida to take on the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers are minus 210 on home ice tonight against the New York Rangers, who are plus 175 on the money line. And looking at the game that's on Amazon Prime tonight, the Jets and the Nashville Predators. Jets are big faves at home, minus 130. And the other game on the ice, Kraken and the Club, the battle of the expansion teams. Well, I guess not expansion. What do we call it? They left, but they're like their own thing.
Yeah,
I don't know what the hell they are. The Utah Hockey Club is minus 155 in Seattle tonight. So some definite value on the Kraken at plus 130. And that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Pred's going to do something? Like do something, probably.
Unload.
Yeah, trade Luke Shen to the Leafs.
Yeah. Traded Carrier, and that's it. All right.
That's the rebuild. That's what he was
three.
talking about. Traded
Fixed
Carrier.
it.
Yeah, done.
Your boy Samsonov with a shutout over Calgary last night.
Yeah.
They've won
They're good.
10 out of 11, including 6 in a row.
My second team.
Vegas.
Love Vegas.
Wow.
Like, where are they
You know,
for you?
I look at that roster, and it's obviously very good. This is not. I just
The
don't
blue
think
line. They
they're.
got the best blue line.
They're just not the best. Yeah, Hannafin, Petrangelo, McNabb, Theodore, Haig, Whitecloud.
Wow.
Rock solid.
Yep.
Rock
And that's
solid.
why they won the cup when they did.
Up
They
front, they're fine. They're like 20 other teams up front. Eichel and Stone and Hurdle are great, but after that, it's pretty much just fine. So good D.
Yeah.
Good D. It
Yeah.
matters.
Wow. Is there this saying that's like defense wins something? I don't know quite how the sayings goes, but
Leafs
anyways.
might want to look into a human or two back there themselves.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break. And when we return, we'll get into a little bit maybe more on the Edmonton Oilers in terms of what they need to do moving forward. Skinner,
Yeah.
healthy scratch. That more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. We are closing out 2024.
Big New Year's plans?
You guys do? Yeah. You do New Year's?
Not really, but we'll get out of town, I think.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
I mean, we just fully stop. Like,
Yeah.
we'll do like a faux countdown with the kids at like 9, and that'll be it.
You go to bed before midnight?
You know what? Last year's, I think, the first year I did, and I just don't see any reason to go through the charade of staying up past it unless something's going on.
I mean, it happens every year.
I'll see you next year when I wake up.
I like making a really nice dinner, maybe
Yeah.
doing a little year in review stuff,
Yeah.
talk over your year,
Yeah.
maybe watch some college football, depending on what the
This
schedule's
sounds
looking
like
like.
someone who has time on their hands.
I have no children.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
yeah, it's really
What's that?
great.
Tell me about it.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Sometimes I just live vicariously through Sam.
Yeah,
Yeah, we all do now. This hour of Real Kipper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. All right. NHL news and notes.
All right.
Oh, actually, I know what I'm
around
going
the
to do.
league.
I'm going to
What?
watch Canada versus USA in the World Juniors.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah?
I'm going to do.
All right. You brought it up. I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
How they doing?
The loss to Latvia. You got to relax.
Oh, you're mad. You're mad about how mad I am.
You feed the beast.
Yeah.
Okay. You feed it.
Kipper, I care about this level of hockey.
It's okay
I don't,
to
I don't,
care.
I don't swoop in every Christmas like everybody
Calling
else.
for us, tweeting a
summit.
summit is embarrassing.
Disagree.
Just, I'm telling you.
Kipper, you don't
Did he
care.
really?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh?
He did that?
Yeah,
I
he did that.
Yeah, I may have had between 6 and 7 Coors Lights. Probably could have used a breathalyzer before I
Yes.
sent those tweets, but that was a little sour.
You can't tweet unless you're below a .04.
Or just one big smack on the head.
Kipper, Canada can't lose a hockey game to Latvia.
Yeah,
No, you can't.
You
Our
can.
boy Janice Bunkus.
You
And they
can't.
did.
Feeling pretty
You can't.
good.
It's
Way to go, Bunk.
came
Kipper,
up-
they're playing Instagram hockey, bud.
Like-
They all play the same game. Nobody hits anybody
What's
anymore.
the Valley line
Oh,
Instagram?
wow.
they
You're going to
take-
get yourself in trouble now. You're valued.
They take.
They'll value
They're
you.
like, oh, they had all these shots. Yeah, they had 40 wristers from the half boards. They don't get to the middle of the ice. They're trying through the legs more than they're doing shots. It's just
A hot
Craig Brew.
Latvian
the game is
goalie.
the game. He wasn't. I mean, they hit him in the chest from the half boards 40 times. Like, and they played the
I
exact
turned it on in
same
the shootout
game.
like everyone else did.
No, I mean, you're in there. Everybody was watching. Like, I watched from the start to the finish. I watch these games and I support the level of hockey. I care about the level of hockey. It matters to me. And people are like, oh, they're teenagers. They're teenagers. We're now getting into the best on best part of hockey again, where this matters. We need these guys to keep the Canadian identity. And it starts to become, we just play like everybody else now. You can't tell the game between USA, between Canada, between Sweden, between Finland.
That's the
Everybody-
NHL.
It is.
Well,
Like,
but you
That's
know what, Sam?
everywhere.
Canada used to have a defining factor when you went to these tournaments
Yeah.
where they're bigger, stronger, faster, and now everybody just plays exactly the
At
same.
the start of UFC, which I remember watching, they used to pit a boxer versus a sumo wrestler, and then a karate guy versus a jiu-jitsu guy. And then everyone kind of figured out that the best thing to be has have a little bit of all those skills. Learn to grapple, learn to punch. That's hockey now, man. There's no more. No one's just. No country is going to benefit by being a dump and chase and hit team.
But-
you have to have skill to play.
yeah,
And
but
so
they just play like. But that is never how we
also
succeeded.
the bottom level of these tournaments has come up. The
Yeah.
other countries are getting better.
I mean, America beat
Tougher
Germany.
to pull away. The separation's not.
I mean, America hung 11 on Germany, and we could barely score 3.
Canada's not as good as Latvia. They're 1,000 times better. You watch hockey all the time. Sometimes
One-off.
crappy teams win.
It's just a one-off.
Thank you.
So I understand that, and it was almost a 2-off because they barely beat Germany. So, anyways, it matters to me more because there are
So
best
they
on
beat
best.
the U.S. tomorrow night. You're okay.
Of course, I'm all the way back in. Duh, that's how this works. You guys have talked to me before.
Gotta ride the coaster, man.
Clearly.
Yeah,
I'm
you
an
don't
idiot
just
for
go down on a
over-panicking.
roller
No.
coaster.
And you're an idiot for over panicking.
No, as a standalone event, Canada losing to Latvia in any hockey game is completely unacceptable. That's it.
Totally agree.
Unacceptable. And I stand by my
All right.
Coors Light tweets. Anyways.
Summit.
Do I ask you that? How do you feel about Canada and the Spangler Cup?
I didn't watch
Do
a
they
second.
get spangled? Are they out?
Yeah,
That's what you
they're
call it. when you
Somebody
lose in a
told me they
tournament.
lost to like a 7th place club team today.
I
That seems bad.
I didn't dive into the Spangler this year, boys. Sorry, everybody. I didn't dive in.
That's a retirement tournament. Come to the best resort
Yeah.
and enjoy yourself.
Look at it, the roster is the most hodgepodge of Canadian hockey players. I don't know how it works, who gets invited, but
Well, they're
Josh
all.
Joris
like,
is there.
I think they're all.
Antoine
Like,
Bibeau,
yeah, they're the
Sam
majority
Gagnon.
of our
Yeah, he
like
said that.
AHL players who
yeah, Mac
say,
Hollowell,
come and bring your
Recently.
family to a beautiful resort.
and I would go if
And
I
then
were
they,
those guys.
then they go and play on the big ice surface, which they're not used to at all.
After having 400 Oktoberfest-sized beers in Switzerland, they're like, "Oh no, did we lose?"
And go win a
Oh
tournament.
darn! I'm gonna hit the Alps.
Yeah, I'm gonna ride the shit, head up to the chalet here. And,
Yeah. Anyways, enough international hockey talk.
All right.
I mean, if I'm mad that they're in this, boys, the 4-nation face-off's gonna ruin me.
Let alone the Olympics.
All right, we mentioned Jeff Skinner before the break. Healthy scratched. Some suggest it was a long time coming.
Our boy Speck.
Once again, a player that you thought could kind of come in, help support the offense of Leon Draisaitl and McDavid, and it's just not happening at 6 goals and 6 assists for Skinner this year.
The Skinner move, it stunk. It was bad when it happened. They weren't a skilly, unproven playoff scorer away from success to me, Kip. I understand that he's scored goals in the past, but like to me, he was never the solution they needed as a second line scoring guy. So this kind of felt, I don't want to say inevitable. There was obviously room that he could have had a great run with a better team, but I'm not at all surprised by this. Are you?
The salt in the wound for Oilers fans is the year that Dylan Holloway is having with the Blues.
Yeah.
Right. He's been fantastic for them. He's 24 points in 38 games for them. He's a +8 on a +7 on a not great team. And he's young, fast. He was developed by them, and they kind of. I mean, it's hard to say that they didn't pick Skinner kind of over Holloway, right? Like you could say it was Arvidsson they picked over him, but it was kind of the similar.
They spent the money elsewhere.
Well, what did they pay Skinner? Was it just over 3? Was it 3 that they paid him?
3 for Skinner.
Yeah, and the contract for Holloway was $2.29 million on the offer sheet. So I thought it was the right move to let him go at the time. Very wrong, and I guess you got to know that. But God,
it just you would hate to see this Oilers core, who was so good and was so close last year, just like lose by these paper cuts. By like making a wrong bet here, keeping Skinner in net and not making it, like there's a few little things.
The other wild card in all of this is Evander Kane.
Yeah, I was thinking that while we were having this conversation.
And
what's going on with him?
Well, supposedly he's getting healthier and could be available March, maybe.
What about April 16th?
Well, you're not bringing him back till after the trade deadline.
Right. But he still couldn't play until playoffs if you want to spend his money. But yeah, I mean that would change things for me. He's the type of depth guy they need when he's good. An effective Kane is not many people like him, right? And he's a playoff guy too. So good news there. All right.
Kudos to Sid.
All-time assist leader, passing the great Mario.
I saw the assist total. It was 1,023 assists, 1,034 assists. That's batty.
So
good for 12th in NHL history. Only 3 players, Ray Bourque, Wayne Gretzky, and Steve Yzerman, have more assists with a single team. The 37-year-old Crosby has played 1,310 regular season games. Lemieux played 915.
Yeah, Lemieux's kind of the guy.
915
like
games.
400 fewer games.
That's crazy.
Pitt's got themselves back in it. Right?
Yeah, they are.
They're right there with Ottawa. They're 1 point behind.
Sniffing.
And is this enough to make Sid happy that you're close? You don't have to make the playoffs?
If I'm not mistaken, they've missed playoffs 2 consecutive years by 1 point each year, or like within a couple of points. So no, I don't think he's content with this, which begs the question, are they a team who's going to add? And I think the answer is yes. And in that case, has a -23 goal differential team ever been a buyer before?
It's a tough spot.
Tough spot.
I mean, you gave him a 2-year contract. You're obviously looking to be good when he's there.
Compete.
Do you have like a ranking of easiest to hardest schedule and where Pitt would fit in?
Yes, I do.
Moving forward?
I do.
Because they've got some tough games coming up, I think, including Florida, Carolina, Edmonton, Ottawa, Tampa Bay.
They may have one of the hardest ones in the league remaining here.
So
yes, they have a very hard schedule. Like bottom third of the league in terms of how challenging it is. 20 teams have easier schedules.
Washington Capitals.
You done talking about Sid?
Yeah, you want to go? You got anything on Sid for me?
He's good.
I just think it's, as much as the Dubas relationship with the Penguins has changed the way I look at the Penguins, I really am happy that they're not like one of the worst teams in the league.
Yes.
With him wallowing away on it. And the reason that they're in where they are is because Sid he's been dragging them, and he's been unbelievable. One of the best players in the league for the last month. Yeah. He's been awesome. It's just nice to see him playing again in somewhat meaningful games.
For sure.
Because I didn't want him to be walling away in the worst team in the league.
That would have been sad.
So there you go.
Vancouver or Lalonde? We haven't done Lalonde yet.
Oh, yeah, right. Lalonde.
Yeah,
Fired
let's
from-
do Lalonde.
Fired from Detroit. He took them from bottom team in the league where they couldn't win a draft lottery to 80 points to 91 points, tied for a playoff spot last year. Didn't get in. And then this year, struggling. Is this him taking the fall for Yzerman's poor roster construction, or is this a deserved firing?
I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I don't have a strong enough opinion either way.
Yeah.
I do see good
I like
players
that
there.
answer.
I do see good players there, and I do think that they should be better.
Better than last in the East?
Yes.
Which is, I believe, where they're
Yeah.
at. They are currently tied with the Sabres, yeah.
The knock on Derek Lalonde was that he could not command the room,
Is that
couldn't
right?
get their attention.
Man.
And that's
How are
why he went and got a guy that is completely opposite. And
Looked like they really bought in on
McClellan's
Saturday night
strength is getting the guy's attention.
or Friday night.
Yeah.
So
It's good. McClellan has a ton of experience. He won a cup as an assistant with Detroit in 2008, I believe. And then since then has been with good teams, Oilers, Kings, and Sharks, through some ups and downs, a lot of experience. So certainly comfortable doing that. Curious about the Lalonde thing, because, I wonder if he'll get snapped up by someone else or if he's someone who sits on the
I don't think
side
he's
for a
got the
little.
same. He's not Jim Montgomery.
No, doesn't have that cachet.
I can't see it. I think it all went downhill when he was with Elliott on Hockey Night in Canada, and he's given
I was
Secrets
so mad
away.
about that. I was so mad about
About
that. He
him
was-
being on there?
No, when he was when it was the Leafs and the Lightning series,
Yeah.
he said "we" multiple times about the
Talking up the
Lightning. I was
balls.
like, "What are we doing? This is hockey night against
You're the coach
Canada.
of the Red Wings.
Come on!" Trying to. Anyways, I was so sour about that. I get sour about a lot of
Hey,
things.
we may get him back on Hockey Night.
Yeah.
You never
Maybe.
know.
I was just mentioning the Washington Capitals.
Mhm.
Ovi had a quiet night Saturday night, and then he gets the
Stunk.
empty net goal, and then he scores one in Detroit, and now what is he
5
25?
from break.
25 from breaking it, 24 from
24
tying
from
it.
tying it.
Yeah,
So
like
is-
he's getting there.
Is this happening?
This
Yes.
year? No.
Well, I don't know about this year. I'm kind of with you on that. I don't think. But I do think, and here's something that we've talked about a lot. Last year, Matthews chased for 70, played into the Leafs' struggles down the end, right? Those last two games of the year, he's going full tilt, banged into the boards. The Capitals are playing for a President's Trophy this year, let alone first seed in the Eastern Conference. As this comes down to the wire, is it going to overshadow a team's genuine push to try to win a Stanley Cup?
I don't think it'll change anything. I think he'll just have that same look. He'll go out there and some nights play
But does
20
do
minutes.
the
or-
storylines
They were good with-
supersede
they
the
were good
Capitals?
without
I
him.
think the answer is clearly yes.
Yeah, it's
we're-
bigger
we're-
than them.
This is
no
bigger than-
question.
This is Hank Aaron.
Yeah, this is the
This is-
sport's biggest record outside of points, which is
Yeah, this is chasing
untouchable.
Hank Aaron's home run record.
To me, like I said this before the show, I'll say it again. One that I've talked about with my buds my whole life is a totally unbreakable record. With him, before even Ovi existed, I said no one would ever touch Wayne. Like, this is crazy that it's this close.
yeah.
Do we know how many empty nets he's had
Oh,
this
he's
year?
going to score 100 empty netters.
But
He's cherry
Washington
picking.
also has to put him in a position
Yes,
where they
of
pull the
course.
goalie,
Yeah.
and they've done a fantastic job of
Let's
that.
put our worst defensive player on the ice so he can cherry pick and shoot him into the net to break Gretzky's
All
record.
right,
That's awesome.
All right, take
Awesome.
it
I
easy.
haven't
Take
seen
it
What an
easy.
I haven't-
incredible! What an
I
incredible!
haven't seen someone
athlete.
have a two-zone breakaway on an
Oh
empty
my
net before.
God.
That was pretty wild.
He was awful against the Leafs.
yeah, it was a tough
Awful.
night. He'd been hurt.
Yeah, he'd been hurt.
He's back, baby.
Yeah.
Tonight on Sportsnet, Rangers and Florida Panthers. How about Montreal going and spanking the state of Florida?
If I'm like a Leafs fan, a Habs fan, I like that they're starting to be okay, but you just can't finish 25th this year. You got to be worse.
It's too early for those teams to start playing well now, isn't it? Usually it's like
Yeah, you
February,
wait till- yeah.
January, February
In
before
fairness,
Buffalo's going, Montreal's going.
Detroit, the Rangers, and the Islanders are all behind them in the East. Buffalo too, and I think they're all
It
probably
is
better than them.
so
So
hard
they
now
may
for them to climb.
switch spots. They're not going to climb, but I think they'll catch Montreal.
All right. Just like that, close out 2024. Wishing everybody a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year!
Our thanks to Frank Seravalli and Luke Fox. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you on the other side.